There are moments in a man's life where his role changes from conformity to leadership. Moments where he just gets it. When something's triggered to move forward, to set the bar, become the benchmark, the measuring stick. It's when everything comes together. He didn't fake it till he made it. He faked it till he became it. That moment is called the switch. And if you're going through the divorce, some will say to give it time, but time, it doesn't make greatness, just mediocrity. It's the status quo, and if you went through all that pain just to cut your losses, then you really did do it for nothing. And that is nihilistic. Giving it time didn't create Michael Jordan. Michael, he built Jordan. He didn't give it time. He figured it out. The switch happens when deep learning begins and greatness becomes of you. It's when you take control of the circumstances that you've been dealt and rise to meet an opportunity that demands more of you as you begin that role that you were meant to play. It's that moment when shit just comes together, when you realize that you're not just living history, you're creating it. It's Churchill's "Will Never Surrender" speech. It's Steve Jobs unveiling of the iPhone and redefining the world. It's fate, once tempted, now leading in your favor. You're not on autopilot, you're in the flow. It's when you stop being shaped by the world and start shaping the world around you. And it begins with you. That's the switch. There's always opportunity, and the fortunate ones, they know how to seize it. When it happens, and it only happens a few times in a person's life, listen to it and become it, because it's bigger than you. And although I say it's acceptance, in many ways, it's nonconformity, because it's yours. You know, I don't share much about my experience, and that's by design. Who cares? You're here for your story. But this time I think it's important to the narrative that I speak. Not because I like to dwell on the past. It's stale to me. I've told it, lived it, dissected it, and at this point in life, it's just plain boring. It's old news, but what still matters, what still hits, is what I did with it. Because I didn't choose to be single. I became it. And that description, he's single, it was changed from an adjective and turned it into a motherfucking verb. Being single. Being single is something that you have to get used to, and to get used to something, you have to repeatedly practice it until it becomes automatic. And that's what I did. I practiced being single, but not alone. It all began 2 years prior to her filing, where she said, "You know who friended me on Facebook? Horace. Isn't that the guy you lost your virginity to? Why'd you accept him? To let him know I won." Good answer. You have to understand that today I have the gift of hindsight, but that was 2 years before she filed. You as an audience can figure out what's about to take place, but back then I had no idea. During the next 2 years, I got smaller and she became a trophy, the prize. Me, I just became her bitch. As husbands, we try to keep our wives happy, but the minute that she begins to push us away, we panic and we attempt to pull her back. We use terms like duty, honor, values to describe our internal compass. But the truth is that it's all bullshit. Be honest with yourself. You love her and you don't want to lose her. But right now, you're paying for her love with your soul. Even the physical connection, the last thing that used to feel real, it just becomes hollow. You initiate sex not for the sake of getting off, but because you're in desperate need to reconnect and bridge that growing distance between you. But then, while in intercourse, it hits you that it's no longer there. There's no passion, no desire, just hollowness. And when it's over, you just end up feeling worse. Shame. You were just charged for sex, not with money, but with your pride. My ex, she was no longer present. She was checked out, and I stayed the husband role longer than I should have. I overstayed my welcome. When she walked out, I felt something unexpected. Serenity. And yet I still wasn't willing to let her go. That is until July 6th, when my switch happened. I had no choice. I had to embrace my new circumstances. Karma, she came by and she paid me a visit, but rather than collect, she took pity on me. She handed me a gift, one I desperately needed. It all came from a message from a complete stranger on Facebook. "Thanks for friending me." She and my ex, they had a mutual friend, Horace. "Do we know each other? You came up as a suggestion on Facebook." She asked me a few questions to make sure that I was as clueless as I was, which I was. And God as my witness, I had no idea how life-changing the next hour of my life was about to become when she asked, "Can I call you?" Okay, I began the conversation rambling. "Look, I know you two are friends, and I don't know about this guy for all I know, and I'm kind of even embarrassed about talking to you about this because I don't even know you. Listen, Renee, your wife's been having an affair with Horace for the past 2 years, and I have all the data to back it up." What? The details she shared, they weren't guesses, they were facts. Precise, brutal, undeniable. Even my ex's $800 student loan payments, they weren't going to her student loans. They were covering his child support. She, and de facto, I, was paying off his child support. She's with him right now, and they're staying at an hotel. That's when I began understanding the old adage. I cried when you left me, but I laughed when I saw who you left me for. Because there really was humor in this. I sat there. I absorbed it. 2 years of lies, confusion, and pain. Everything, it all made sense. Before hanging up the stranger, she gave me his number and said, "He won't answer. He's got another phone that he uses around her. God knows what would happen if she ever saw his real phone." She didn't even have his number. And I wasn't done. Never spoke to her, only through text from then on. And here's what I said. "You're leaving me for Horace?" I get an angry text back of denial that was the end saying, "He'll fly out there and beat your ass." An hour later, I get a private call, and I knew who it was. He walked straight into my ambush, and I unleashed 2 years of fury onto him. Everything that she put me through was now raining on him. And I knew she was next to him, listening, and I needed her to hear it. "Check your phone. I just sent you a crapload of picture of other women that he's sleeping with while my dumbass is kissing yours, trying to keep this marriage together. And the $800 of child support, all a fucking lie." And he hung up. And frankly, I would be hanging up on me too. That was the moment that I went from grief to motherfucking beef. It was Darwinian. It was strict survival. That's when I stopped seeing her as the woman that I had put on a pedestal. I spent years convincing myself that she could have anyone, any guy. To me, she was untouchable back then. But that was just my interpretation, an illusion. I thought she was so far above me, only to end up with a pariah and weak. I could never take her back. Taking her back would have meant telling my kids, my family, my friends, myself that I loved her more than I loved me. And that was unacceptable. Taking her back would have meant that I would be betraying me. I couldn't do it. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror and like who I saw. Not ever again. I felt like a Roman general preparing for battle only to be betrayed by his own men, stripped of command, disoriented, confused, but somehow relieved. The decision was made for me. There was no guilt. There was no indecision. The war was over, and I could finally lay down my sword. I began to breathe, walk, talk, behave, and speak like the person that I wanted to become. And I just started handling myself differently and had a shitload of fun doing it. Meeting her wasn't the worst thing that ever happened to me, but she was probably the worst mistake within my control that I've ever made. And I've made some really fucking stupid mistakes, but I was back. So that's when the shift happens. It's when you take control and you recognize your worth. It's confidence staring you in the face when you look at a mirror. But as soon as you start treating yourself like you're the prize, the rest of the world will start following, and they'll see it also, because confidence is magnetic. Self-respect is undeniable, and a man who's in love with his own life is just difficult to ignore. So approve of yourself. Give yourself permission to live unapologetically and encourage others to do the same. It's contagious. Make your switch. Gentlemen, if you're going through a divorce, you need a coach. You go through a divorce without expert advice, and you're going to make some fucked up mistakes, from hiring the wrong divorce attorney to committing to the wrong person. And that's an expensive fucking mistake. That's why 67% of second marriages fail, because we don't learn shit the first time. I didn't, and it cost me. And I swear, if I had a coach, at least I would have known that I could have done better. But instead, I settled. I missed the signs. I didn't know my value. And that's why I'm here to guide you from A to Z, step by step by step, because this isn't something that I just do. It's something I'm built for. And I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't feel that I was the best. It's just way too important. Working with me, you won't just be surviving, but you'll be thriving. You'll be living so damn well that she'll look back at the day that she left with regret in her heart and bitterness in her soul. Not because you wanted revenge, that's not why, but because you became that man that she just couldn't see. This is your moment, your switch, your chance to take ownership. So step up and rewrite your story. Stop waiting for time to fix things. Time doesn't make greatness, action does. And that action starts right here, right now, and it's actually fun. So just click on the link in the comment section underneath. Thank you very much.